This is our School of Social Work at Loyola Chicago's School Mental Health Advanced Practice Program, SMHAPP for short. I want to welcome you. My name is Dr. Michael Kelly. I'm professor at the School of Social Work, and I'll be talking lots about the program and answering questions you may have and getting into kind of the why and the what we're here for in terms of doing this. I'm so excited to be here today doing this with you. This is absolutely both a labor of love, but also something that really builds on a lot of things that I've been doing for really the last 25 years. I was a school social worker in the Chicago area for 14 years, and I'll refer to that a bit when I talk about how this program came to be. And since 2006, I've been at Loyola, and it's very meaningful to have this chance to have potentially my third cohort of school certificate folks join us for what I believe is one of the only, if not the only, postmaster's school mental health program that provides advanced training in a lot of the critical issues that I'm sure a lot of you are seeing day to day. So again, I want to welcome you. We will have a chance as we go forward to answer questions, and I'm going to refer to those questions as well that you put in the chat, and then we will have time at the end where I'll unmute people and they can just ask questions directly. So before we go any further, I did want to introduce and thank two very important people to this process at our school, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, Tati Butler and Carolyn Goslin. So Carolyn, why don't you go first? She's unmuting herself. Are you there, Carolyn?
Carolyn may be having technical issues.
Okay, that's all right. So,
okay, how about that? Is that better?
Oh, okay, much better.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
This is a new process for me. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Goslin, and I am the program coordinator / manager of continuing education here at Loyola University. I handle all CEU programming as well as certificate programming. So hopefully I will be available to answer any of your questions.
Great. And Carolyn and I work together on a program that's related to what I'm going to show you today, the Family School Partnership Program, which is a CEU granting training program we've been doing a long time, and she's been awesome in helping that move forward. Tati.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tatiana Butler. Feel free to call me Tati. I'm the enrollment advisor for all of the graduate social work programs here at Loyola. So after Dr. Kelly finishes his presentation, I'll be happy to hang around for any admission questions that you may have, or just any general application questions that you may also have.
Great. And Tati, just so you know, the slides, which I will provide, I'll make sure you have them as well as everybody that signed on today. They have your contact information as the last slide. So they'll
great.
Well.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, okay. So like I said, we're going to go for about maybe 25 minutes, half hour, maybe a little longer, depending on how the spirit moves me, to talk about the items that are up here, which is all about the SMHAPP Postmaster Certificate. Is it a right program for you? I think it is right for lots of people already, and I want to tell you a little bit about them as well as what the program's about. We will get into the curriculum, which I think is very innovative and I think gets to a lot of the critical issues that we've seen in the research we've been doing on school mental health practice, as well as just feedback we've gotten from our cohorts that have gone through the program already. And then the nitty gritty, the stuff that you all came for that's very important and necessary as you think about applying to this program. Applications are due August 1st. So I would just say before I even get started, if you're thinking at all about doing this, it's a free application. You can follow the link that'll be coming later. You can put, what I would say is if you could get in at least the start of an application, that would give us a sense of where we're at in terms of this cohort. And there's no obligation, and it's a free application. But so we'll get into what that application process is. We'll talk about the all-important tuition and financial aid, and then we'll have time for group questions. All right. And Tati, if there's anything like really urgent and pressing in the chat that you want to chime in on, feel free to interrupt me.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so who am I? I've been at this, like I said, for a good while now. This is a program that I kind of have created, though it's certainly not just mine. It's something Loyola has agreed to and sponsored and endorsed. And our new dean, Dean Gautam Menon, I think has been instrumental in pushing it forward. But it's important to know about me in terms of how this program has kind of come out of my thinking, as well as that I will be building on a extensive network of local, state, and national, and now international school mental health researchers and practitioners who will be part of this program in various ways. So a little bit about me. I'm the program director. I've been at it at Loyola, as I said, since 2006. In that time, I've written over 60 articles, books, and book chapters on this topic. Particularly, I'm interested in practice in schools by all professionals. So even though this is a school of social work, and even though I did my school social work for all the 90s and parts of the 2000s, I am very much interested in people of all disciplines being part of this program, and we've already had that. We've had school psychs, school counselors. We have a couple teacher educators that are going to be joining us possibly this year. So I want to be just clear up front. Several of the colleagues I'll work with on the program often even refer to this as school clinicians, and so I may use that today during our conversation, and just want to be clear with you about that. I am also really interested for all those professional groups in evidence-based practice and related to that data-driven, evidence-informed practice, and you'll hear that a lot. So since I've been at Loyola, I've been teaching in the school section. We have a certification process here in Illinois, and so I've been able to teach, at this point, over 200-300 school social workers that are now out there in the Midwest doing their thing. I also am very interested, because I did family therapy practice and private practice for 10 years, as well as the youth ministry practice. I'm very interested in brief treatment, and so a big part of this certificate program will get into some of the well-known treatments that I think are strength-based. So I'm thinking of solution-focused brief therapy, motivational interviewing, to some extent DBT. These are things that I think allow us to really look at students in a way that's not as deficit-laden and not as driven by some of the special ed labels and DSM-5 labels we see. And then because I am really interested in evidence-based practice, I've been spending the last decade teaching our doctoral students that as well. But probably most importantly for you, I've been myself in the spot you are now. I was a school social worker first in DuPage County, and then in District 97 Oak Park, right outside Chicago. I worked across all grade levels, K through 12. I was very involved in a variety of kind of, if you think of the multi-tiered systems of support, or PBIS, or whatever it's being called in your neck of the woods. I was very involved in doing lots of prevention work and parent work, and engaging people before kids got into a special ed process. So that's really kind of formed the basis of a lot of things I'm going to talk about today, because I loved being a school practitioner. I loved being involved at that level of engaging a community and getting to kids maybe before they were in crisis. And I also saw the need to deal with what I saw in my own work, which was a sense of professional isolation and a sense of wanting to get better at what I was doing and not always being sure where to look or who to talk to or what was effective. So I joined the Family School Partnership Program first as a practitioner, and now I'm at Loyola, where we run the CEU events that Carolyn Gosselin helps me with. To date, we've had over 1,200 people trained through that. Since 1998. So there is a little bit of an overlap, or a meaningful overlap, between the FSPP Summer Institute, which happens July 25th and 26th this year, which you're certainly welcome to come to, and we'll have some information about that today as well. That is the CEU portion for most people that will come to it, though my SMHAPP students also will be there and presenting, and I'll talk more about what that means possibly for you if you decide to apply. So a little bit more about just my own work that will factor into what we talk about. This is a book that a lot of us have been trained on, that have done school social work at least. This is the 8th edition. I was honored to be invited to be part of the 8th edition of this very important volume. I'm old enough to have been taught actually on the 2nd edition. So that's how old I am, if you're playing along at home. But this is a book that I think in a lot of ways forms the basis of some of the initial readings we'll do for the SMHAPP program, in the sense that we'll take that as a base, and then we'll do the advanced piece where we'll look more in depth and we'll go into some topics that I think are really central to school mental health practice. Another book that was instrumental in my thinking about getting to this certificate is this book on the left. It came out in 2008. It's my dissertation. It's survey data based on school social workers in Illinois. But there's a whole chunk of the book, if you read it, that is really about my own lived journey as a school social worker, figuring out how to be evidence-informed in a setting where I didn't have a lot of resources. I didn't really know what that meant. But I also knew that what I was doing wasn't working and I wanted to get better. To the right is a book that's actually now in its second edition that we will use for our SMHAPP course, which is the Solution Focused Brief Therapy in Schools book. Johnny Kim and Cynthia Franklin are my co-editors on that, and they're really leaders internationally at this point. They do training around in China and Korea and Europe, as well as the States. And all of us are very interested in making solution-focused, strength-based work part of the day-to-day way we intervene with kids. Another book that we will heavily refer to as part of the evidence-based practice in school mental health course that you do for the certificate will be this book that we did in 2010. It is obviously in need of an update, and there's lots of updates also in that class that I'll be speaking about. But what I like about this book is we took on, based on our survey data, I do a lot of survey research, what is it that school social workers say they deal with the most? What are the biggest problems they deal with? And you could probably, in your head right now, tick off a lot of those problems. So we talked about how to write effective behavior plans. We talked about how to help kids with ADHD and anxiety and deal with issues of trauma and things like that. And so this is a book that does a critical review of the best available evidence as of late 2009. So there's a lot that's happened since then, and we give you a lot of information about where to look now and what we've learned since. But the framework is still very solid, and the idea of being evidence-informed is very solid. So if you join the certificate program, you're going to get both a lot of practical tools. I'll talk about those too, but you're also going to get some conceptual tools that allow you to think about things, that allow you to identify things that might work in your school and bring that back to your school community. So what is this all about? Why am I so concerned and interested in doing this? I mean, I love teaching. I love talking about school social work, school mental health. I love meeting people in practice and seeing what they do. I loved doing that work. I love that I get to have like a second career that's related to it now, teaching about it. But I also know that there's a lot of challenges out there. And so this is based on research I've been involved in with my teams. And these are not meant as criticisms, but they're meant as empirical kind of validations of what maybe a lot of you are even on this call today thinking and feeling and seeing around you. The first is that school mental health, school clinicians are not consistently able to promote universal strategies, things at tier 1 or even tier 2, and that they're not able to do them consistently for a lot of barriers that involve time, that involve being put in a position where they're expected to put out lots of fires and respond to crisis, but they also don't feel prepared to do them. It is a different skill set to some extent to get up in front of a whole assembly of kids and do a bullying prevention program, or to go to a faculty meeting and try to persuade the faculty to embrace an intervention that would say, for instance, be on their lunchtime playground duties. These are things that we know when they're done at tier 1, even tier 2, they really make a difference for kids and they really enlarge our role, but they're not necessarily things that we trained on when we were in our master's program. Additionally, we all know that this is a data-driven era we're in, that people are being expected to collect data. They're being expected sometimes to use that data even to show that what they do works. So it's very personal as well as professional. But even if that's not always your top-of-mind concern, there is this very real issue about I need to be able to understand what's going on in my school environment. I need to be able to demonstrate that my interventions are making a difference. I need to be able to plug into that. And so what we also know is that based on our survey data, lots of people are reporting they don't feel prepared to use that data effectively. They're not sure what data best to collect. They're not sure what tools are better than others. They know that there's things that they're expected to do, particularly on a caseload of kids, but they lack confidence, honestly, is what a lot of it is. And they lack resources and supports. And so we're looking to provide all those things. We want to provide definitely the resources and supports, and we hope with the project that you would do as part of this program that you would have more confidence going forward. So what's the bottom line? The bottom line is all of us are in these very complicated, messy school contexts, and they only get messier year after year. We're a country that very much prides itself on decentralized local control of schools. So what that means is we have a lot of different ways our roles play out. We see ourselves often pushed and pulled in lots of directions. At the same time, the things that are policy initiatives that have come down for the feds and the states are not necessarily being reflected in what we do day to day. All right. But all is not lost. We've been doing some recent research on our survey data, and we found some very hopeful signs. One is that of a sample of over 3,700 school social workers that responded to our survey, 17% of them essentially are in what I would call an ecologically evidence-informed mode all the time, that they're doing things that really hit across all three tiers of the model. They're doing things that are very much driven by data and evidence. And they're doing it as just part of what they assume they're there to do. So it doesn't appear to be something that they have to keep renewing and figuring out. That's awesome. That may be some of you right now. That may be you listening to this saying, what's the big deal? I do this all the time. By all means, this program is still for you because it's going to enlarge on that. And it's going to build you out to do even more as a school leader in your buildings. Most of us, though, are not in that place. And what was also hopeful, though, was a big chunk, almost 67%, were in a kind of moderate level of doing those things that I've just mentioned. And what that says to me is that we're at a bit of a tipping point. If we can get that group through this certificate and other things I'm doing through other things I'll show you in a minute, if we can get that group to start to do these things more, tell other people about it, show other people how they're doing it, we're going to really change school mental health practice, and we're going to make it more ecologically oriented and data-driven and evidence-informed. I also think it's not to be too political today, but this is, if ever there was a time for us to be showing the impact of school mental health as a first-line responders to deal with issues of school violence. Certainly the traumas being visited upon many kids, migrants, as well as kids dealing with violence day to day in their homes and in communities. It's now, and there is a lot of people out there now that are thinking about that. And so this is a place for us to also be seen as leaders. This is not just me talking in an abstract way. We have a lot of people who have joined me in these efforts. So I have 3 professional learning community projects that I'm furiously writing up right now to get submitted and out there in the published literature in Chicago. And you'll meet some of those people in a minute on the slides. In Ontario, Canada, I did PLCs with over 75 school social workers in Ontario the last 2 years, and then another 25 in suburban Detroit. And what all the 3 of those projects, they're all different, but what they all got to was this issue I write here, that meaningful professional development, which is different than what we call the sit and get or the train and pray, where you all have been through this, I've been through this. You come to some meeting room, some expert gets up there and talks, you listen to them, you go back to what you were doing before, maybe you remember what they said, maybe you don't, but you don't really have any follow-up, right? But that the PLC models that we did had that built in. It was monthly meetings, it was getting together, it was working on things together, that there's a way to have meaningful professional development that sticks, that becomes part of the day-to-day, that actually makes practice better. So the challenge that I've set myself, that I've set the colleagues I work with, that I've set this program, is how can we create online tools that are evidence-informed, free. Free is really important, and I'm a big fan of free, and easy to use. And there's a website that I've been involved in relaunching that is underway. Some of you have probably been there already, schoolsocialwork.net, and I'll talk about that. Can we use that site as well as this program to create a group of school mental health master mentors to provide their expertise, both through spoken presentations, possibly podcasts, videos, written form? I believe we can. We're starting to see some of that on SSWN. And then can we also have sustainable evidence-informed PLCs? And again, I think we're beginning to see some of that in the research I've done. And I believe all 3 of these things come together very nicely with this certificate, and that you can be part of a, really in some ways, what is beginning to be a bit of a movement in school mental health, where we're beginning to do this more collectively. And this is one way you can get involved, and I would love for you to think about doing that. So again, if you haven't been to SSWN yet, please do. This is a picture of an article that will heavily inform what we do in the certificate. A friend of mine like a fellow in Michigan that I was talking about a minute ago, Steve Whitmore, he and I are working on a time study tool that will be eventually this fall. All things go the way they're supposed to, is going to be an app that will be on our site that you will be able to use, that will allow you to track your time, to look at your outcomes, to think about your practice. And we will make that free and available to you. And it'll be free and available to you whether you do the certificate or not. But this is something that we want to build into the certificate, so you can learn how to use your time to be more of an advocate for your services. A little bit more on the site itself. Scott Carchady is a school social worker at U46 in far suburban Chicago. He founded it. He's a tech wizard. He's awesome. Michelle Patak-Pietrafesa is a longtime school social worker in Ohio and now a PhD student at Ohio State. And myself, we're the co-editors of the site. These are the departments that we write for: interventions, tools for practice, research that matters. We write research briefs where we ask people to think about a study, distill it down to one page where people can go get it, look at it, use it. You would write some of those for the certificate program. You would be invited to do that. And we've got a reach in our own little world. And people that know way more about social media can confirm this, but 2,100 likes on Facebook, almost 600 Twitter followers, 800 people looking at what we put on Pinterest. So that is growing. That's been growing even since I put up that slide a couple weeks ago. And that's going to continue. We have a lot of content that's related to having researchers on the site as well, and I'll speak to that. So this is a former, actually, doc student of ours at Loyola, Brandy Maynard. She was the first researcher in residence. And I share her because she's at St. Louis University, so she's not on Loyola's faculty, but she and many other people that I work with will be guest lecturers, will be part of the program. So as much as you're going to spend time with me and my ideas and the research I've done, there's lots of other people I will be bringing in as adjuncts and guest lecturers, and they're going to be people that I think will really inspire you. Another place that we are developing related to the SSWN page is a community page. My hope is that master mentor thing I mentioned a minute ago, that we will eventually have this as a kind of social media hub where you all as SMHAPP graduates can be there and essentially provide technical assistance and support to people around the country and to some extent even around the world. I had someone from Nigeria Facebook me today, and you know, to get help on implementing some of these important things that we want to do in schools to be effective. All right. One last thing, I am really interested in having people that are in the SMHAPP program write about their experiences, do their research on their practice, and if they want to, it's not a requirement of the class, but publish their work. And so I am, along with several other people at the School Social Work Association of America, editors of an international open access journal. What you're looking at right now is a map of all the downloads in that past month and all the parts of the world that downloaded articles. These are free open access articles. So that could be you in a couple of years. You could have your project that you did, this 2-year project that I'll talk about now, where you essentially identify a problem in your school, think about what you want to do about it, think about who the key allies are in your school, think about the data you're going to use to try to show them and others that this is a problem, think about the evidence for what will work, and then implement it. And if you want to do that, you'll do that for 2 years with me and your colleagues. You've got a lot of support, a lot of technical assistance. And then maybe someday you write it up and it's being read by someone all the way down in Australia. All right, so I've been kind of talking about this, so I'm just going to be more direct now and talk about the program for a few minutes and give you a sense of why I think this is a great idea for you to consider, and also get into the nitty-gritty of tuition cost, how do I do it, and all that. So as you can tell, I'm very immersed in this literature. I also am very convinced that I don't want to get so far into a research study that I can never think about what it means to real people doing the work who would be reading it saying, what does this mean to me? So I think I've found a nice balance with this program of having lots of good research that we'll encounter, but also really applying it to your practice in schools. So this 2-year long-form project that we'll do together in this kind of format like we're doing right now, where you'd be on camera with me wherever you are, and we'd be meeting twice a month working on it, you would essentially devise this project, get consultation from me and the rest of the group, do the needs assessment in year 1, and then in year 2, you'd implement it. And we've got some really cool projects I can talk about in a minute. You would definitely, along the way, learn a lot of cutting-edge skills to be more effective with all those stakeholders. You're starting with a lot of skills, and you'll get more, and you'll get a chance to also share what you're doing with this cohort that you're going to get to be with. I really love that this is a program that talks about leadership, that talks about you as many people think of themselves after this program as social emotional leaders in their buildings. I think certainly with what we're learning and doing about trauma at this point, I think that's another place that we can assume a role of leadership. I also think there are many other ways that people can be leaders in their building. And I want you to think of yourself as one. And because it's a 15 credit program and it's graduate level credit, it's academic work, but it's also going to give you the chance. Some of us are on salary contracts that have lanes that you would be able to move over to the next lane typically. And that was certainly true in Illinois. So it won't right away, but eventually it will pay for itself in terms of the salary recouped. All right. So it is 15 credits. It is, I want to say 99% online, maybe even more than that, because it is what's called synchronous classes, which will be that like we're doing now. We're on camera together. It'll also be self-paced asynchronous classes, and that's the stuff you can be doing at 2 in the morning if you got a baby that's got you up, or you have to get up early before school and do it. Whatever that is, it can be self-paced, and that's modular. That will be me and others that do those lectures. You'll be listening to us and doing assignments in the modular context. The one thing that isn't online is that we require everybody to come for at least one of the summer immersion times. This year it's the Family School Partnership Summer Institute that happens during the week. So it's July 24th through the 26th. So if you want to come this summer and meet those folks, you can meet them during the Summer Institute time. So they're coming for one day before the main conference, and then they will be there for the 2 days of the main conference. They will be presenting their work. So they'll be presenting year 1 of their work, this cohort. And that will be, I think, another good leadership opportunity for them to show their stuff. So if you did this program, I would love for you to come to both summer institutes, but you'd only be required to come to one. And it would be to come to Chicago, and certainly to stay down at our Water Tower campus. This is designed to be completed in 2 years. So you would be doing this with a cohort, going through it together, being part of something together. These are the classes. So I've referred several times to this video chat thing like we're doing now. It's called an integrative seminar. I will be teaching many of them, though as our program grows, there'll be other expert faculty that I've got in mind who will be doing it, including some major figures in the world of PBIS, MTSS work. Very excited about that. But that will be a seminar format where we do readings, we work on this project that I've talked about. We get feedback from each other, we teach each other things, and that would meet for 2 full years. The other pieces are what we call the modular stuff. So that's stuff that can be done pretty much any semester it's offered. And the 3 classes are evidence-based practice in schools, which I've talked about already, the strength-based interventions, which I want to say a little bit more about. I think another really good trend right now is we're beginning to see the benefits of things like mindfulness and teaching students self-regulation, which I think, again, gets us out of this box where we're having to call kids DSM-5 label to get them help. Every kid can learn from relaxation, mindfulness, self-regulation strategies. So you'll learn advanced information about that. You'll be able to implement that. And then based on each cohort's input, we've designed a class that's called a special topics class. And 1 credit of that is your summer immersion time. And then the rest of it is based on essentially choices from the group. And so far we've done ones on strategies across the 3-tier model, how to work at each level, and then another one called data done right. So how to work with data and be effective with data. All right. The application process is pretty straightforward, and Tati's here, so in a minute, maybe when you all have questions, she can speak to that more. But it's to apply by August 1st. We are asking that you be a professional working in a school right now, and we very much mean that to be open. So if you're in a school as a nurse, if you're in a school as a psych, if you're in a school as a special educator, as well as school social work, school counselor, et cetera, you are welcome to apply to this because you're doing the kind of work I've just talked about. We ask for the statement of purpose, which is a short essay you write, 3 letters of rec, and they can be very much from people you work with now. It doesn't have to be back to professors if that's back in the day. Just bring people that know your work now, the transcripts you have, and then being able to just show you work in a school. All right. So this is more information on the application process. I'm going to circle back to that because I know I've been talking a while, and I know the thing I haven't talked to yet is the one everybody's wondering about, which is how much does this cost? All right, so I'm happy to say we've been able to negotiate with the larger Loyola University context to convince them of the value of this program and the need for it. So we got them to come down on tuition from a typical tuition credit hour at Loyola to where I got it to where it's $10,000 for the entire program. That includes the books. It adds to $2,500 per semester for 4 semesters. There is financial aid available. There is also, some schools do have a partial reimbursement. So if you think that might be your school, let them know. We can certainly write a letter also detailing the course descriptions. All right, let me stop there for a minute. Tati, anything you want to add to these slides I just ran through?
So far, no, not really. Everything seems to be pretty much straightforward. As soon as you submit your application, you can become eligible for any financial assistance that we may have, but that is only available to admitted students. So I would definitely recommend submitting your application soon, especially since we do not have an application fee. And I also don't believe, Dr. Kelly, you're requiring the GRE too, right?
Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, if you're out there in a school and you have the other pieces we're looking for, we're not asking you to be a GRE eligible student.
Right.
Also, just to be clear, because this may come up in the Q&A I'm getting to in a minute, this is not, as of now, this could change depending on how much this program grows. I've got kind of a 5-year plan that our dean has given me to grow this. This is not right now a stepping stone for you to get a PhD at Loyola. So you would be doing this as a standalone certificate that you would then take into your school. Again, some of people get salary lane advancement. Everybody that's taken it so far has said this has raised their stature in their district. It's gotten the attention of their principal, sometimes the superintendent. It's also just made them feel more part of a collegial professional learning community. So those are the kind of benefits that this is providing. It's not necessarily going to get you on the road to getting a doctorate, though that could change, honestly, as we grow this program, depending on how it goes. But for now, it's a standalone 15-credit certificate. All right. So a few more things that I want to just say about where this could all go, and then I will stop and kind of see what comments people already gave you, Tati, as well as questions. We can unmute people. I am very interested in building the research infrastructure as well as this training, teaching infrastructure. So I organized the first ever research forum at our National School Social Work Conference, and the SSWR refers to our main research conference. So along with Ron Astor at USC, I co-chair this group. And these people up here may or may not be people that you've heard the names of before. I guarantee you've been impacted by their work. Cynthia Franklin already mentioned. Dawn Anderson Butcher is a major person in using sport and positive youth development in schools. Michael Lindsay, African-American scholar at NYU, has created, to me, one of the most dynamic podcasts around, I think it's called Reclaiming the Narrative, about how we need to get a different view of Black boys and Black men. Marlene Wong, who's on this list, one of the people that helped create CBITS, which is a trauma intervention that a lot of you may know is in schools, and lots of other people that were there. So why I'm saying this to you is this group is going to be involved, and here they are. This group is going to be involved in various ways, big and small. You will read things they've written. You'll also have them as guest lecturers. And I would argue, as this program grows, some of them are going to be people that we may even partner you with to help you evaluate your data and do your work, because they're very interested in that. And they're very excited and committed to seeing this program succeed. Here's another group of people that you may encounter. These are people both local and far. The woman who's bending over a bit in green, all green, is the godmother of school social work in Japan, Noriko Yamano. And she brought researchers and students a couple of years ago to Chicago to visit me at Loyola and my students and our professional learning community project. And I share her and her students because one of the other things I'm very passionate about is to expand our view of school mental health, school social work globally. And so she and some people on this next slide are going to be instrumental in helping us do that as well. This is a group I meet with every summer in Oxford, England. And these are people from about 6 or 7 countries right there. So again, these will be resources and people that will be interested in knowing about our work and will be participating in various ways through writings, through guest lectures, through possibly even partnering with them on research. So again, to restate kind of what the project is, and then I will stop and get you asking questions before we go. This is Caitlin Morris. She was part of our professional learning community project, and she did a wonderful project on check-in, check-out, and getting that to be a better intervention in her school. These are the pieces of your 2-year project you would do. You identify a problem, you identify data sources for a needs assessment, you build those key alliances, you would find the best available evidence that's not up there, but you would learn through the EVP class how to find the best evidence to actually do something that'll work in your school. You would then do that intervention, measure the outcomes, and then make sure the school knew about it and got you credit for it. Because one of the other things you see up there on the slide is the idea that we want school mental health professionals to be visible, valuable, and vital. So we want you to be visible in your practice. All of us are active. That's not a question. But do people know who you are and what you do? Do they see the value in what you do? Have you tied what you do to the school goals, to what the key opinion leaders in your school care about? That's important, and we talk a lot about that. And then finally, are you vital to the life of the school? I mean, we all feel important, hopefully, but does the school view you that way? Would they fight like crazy if your job was threatened? And we know that people do have that experience where their jobs are threatened, and the principals and the teachers and the parents go to the mat for them. So we want to teach some of the ways to make that. Certainly we don't want everybody to have job threats like that, but we want to make you able to be as confident as you can in what you do and be able to stand on it. These are current students, some of the current students in our SMHAPP program, and they gave me permission to share a little bit about them. Tracy is on the left. She is in Central Illinois doing a really cool project around establishing criteria for services, because she sees a real need that school social workers in her district are just kind of dumped caseload kids, and they don't really have a lot of say in it, and they want to be able to better delineate what does and does not constitute a referral. The guy in the middle, Mike Flood, is a school social worker in the northern burbs here. He is very interested in looking at how to use screening, universal screeners, to better establish criteria for services. And all 3 of these guys are going to be presenting at the Summer Institute in July. Chris Cusack on the right is doing a really innovative project where she noticed that lots of the kids in her elementary school are excluded and have lots of trouble managing conflict at school during playground time. And so she went to her PTO, she looked at the research, she did the alliance building, and she got the PTO to essentially give her money to buy new playground equipment and a curriculum that they're going to implement and train all the playground supervisors in how to do. So these are people making it happen right now, and you could be one of them. This is last year's Summer Institute, and I'm just going to show you some examples of people that presented and just give you a flavor of what you would be doing if you joined us. This was our topic and theme last year. We wanted to talk about the invisible, valuable, and vital. So one person spoke about how they use this time study tool, and I won't belabor this too much. It's a lot to look at, but if you look at the blue and the red and the purple, what we essentially found again and again in Michigan was that for every hour of direct service, you had another additional several hours. Every 2 hours of direct service, you had another 3 hours or so of indirect and documentation. And what we know is for most people in most school mental health jobs, that is not at all accounted for in what they do. And so we wanted to talk about what we do about that. Here's just another way that data was represented. So again, you would be using data, you'd be depicting data, we would train you in this. We would show you how to do this. Certainly, you don't have to worry about knowing how to do this to start. This is another person presenting her project. This is Kathleen Jurassic, did a great job talking about how to use strengths and difficulties questionnaire data. That's a screener to identify the key issues in her second and third grade classes at her school. And she's talking about how she did that. And then this is just some more pictures of people being visible, valuable in action. Lucia Rodriguez on the left is in Cicero, and she described how she implemented and measured the impact of a mindfulness intervention as a Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention in her school. Kathleen Jurassic, you've already seen in the background, is her SDQ data. And the people at the bottom here, these are all people who made a commitment to try to implement restorative practices in their building. Lisa Schwab, Paul McNulty, Daniel Robinson. And they're all talking, and this is a key part of this certificate if you decide to do it. We're not expecting magic. We're not expecting fairy tale outcomes. All three of them talked about how hard it was to do restorative practices in a school, and they talked about the successes and the challenges. So we try to keep it real and talk about what really happens in schools. All right, so these are the final pieces I want to say, and then I do want to ask if people have things to add. We'll unmute everybody and ask people to speak on any questions you have that I haven't answered already. The application is online. It is free. I am available. That's my email. That's my cell phone. Feel free to reach out. And then that's Tati's contact information as well. All right. So anybody that has a question, we are a small enough group that I think we can have everybody on. And if we take turns, we can answer any questions that I didn't get to already. Anybody? Anything in the chat box, Tati, that we could refer to?
Yeah, Dr. Kelly, I have a question.
Sure.
This is Angie Halstead with Fremont Public Schools.
Hi, Angie.
Hi. Hang on, I'm going to put you back on conference.
All right.
All right. My question is, we already have a family and school partnership in Fremont, Nebraska, and we do some research, but I certainly, everything you've said, I've been nodding my head, yes, yes, yes. I've been a school social worker for 24 years. The Summer Institute, I looked online, is a reasonable cost as far as that goes. So in order to be a part of that additional day, you then just come on the 24th through the 26th this coming July? Is that what you had said?
Yeah, I mean, let me just be clear on that. I mean, certainly given that you all have come this far to an info session and it sounds like you're interested in learning more, I would certainly welcome you to come to that day. That is an invitation only day, just because it's going to be researchers and my current SMHAPP students there. But certainly if you or anybody else that wanted to email me and say, hey, can I come? I'd be happy to have you come and be part of it, especially with, it sounds like you have a lot of experience doing things in Nebraska, and that would be great to learn about it. But just so everybody's clear, the actual program that is the set thing that you see on the web is just the Wednesday and Thursday, the 25th.
Okay. And that's on campus?
Everything's on campus. It's at our Water Tower campus. The specific building is 111 East Pearson. So if you email me, I can give you more direct details about times and all that for that first day.
Okay.
Great.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other things in the chat, Tati, that I haven't hit already or that I should speak to?
Nope, not so far.
Okay.
But this is a perfect opportunity to ask Dr. Kelly any questions that you may have while you do have him here. Even about the field, I would definitely encourage any questions.
Lisa, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute.
That's all right.
So when you were saying as far as the weekend to come to Chicago, when you're saying stay on the water tower, would we be all staying together on campus, or you're coming up staying in a hotel? How does that weekend look as far as the 4 days when we come when we would come if we're admitted, of course, and come for the
Right.
presentation? How would that look?
Great question. So the first thing is that I say weekend because it just kind of sounds better, but like this year it turned out to be during the week. So the first piece I would say, Lisa, and this is to everybody, we would set